The trading station orbited a dying star, its metal corridors filled with the desperate whispers of refugees from 12 different worlds. Ambassador Kethavar adjusted his breathing apparatus as he watched the security feeds, his four eyes tracking the massive shape that dominated the station's central bay. Zixthera the Worldbreaker lay coiled in the reinforced chamber, her obsidian scales reflecting the emergency lighting like black mirrors. Each scale was the size of a dinner plate, and her serpentine body stretched nearly 200 meters from snout to tail. The dragon's presence made the station's artificial gravity fluctuate with each of her breaths. And even through the thick transparasteel, Kethavar could feel the psychic pressure of her ancient mind. "She's been here for 3 cycles," reported Security Chief Dronix, his mandibles clicking nervously. "Won't speak to anyone. Won't eat. Just lies there, staring at the stars through the observation ports." Kethavar studied the creature that had once reduced the military fleets of 6 star systems to cosmic dust. Zixthara's reputation preceded her across half the galaxy. She was older than most civilizations, a living weapon from the time when dragons ruled space through fear and fire. Her kind had been the apex predators of the cosmos for millions of years, until they simply vanished into the deep void between galaxies. "What does she want?" Kethavar asked, though he suspected he already knew. Every species in the Galactic Council had heard the rumors. "The humans were coming, that's just it, Ambassador. She won't say. But 3 days ago we intercepted a human distress signal from the Outer Rim, a colony ship, carrying families from their dying homeworld." The ambassador's skin shifted from blue to a worried purple. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage, barely 50 years since first contact. Their homeworld Earth had been consumed by their own star's expansion, forcing them to become a nomadic species. Most of the galaxy viewed them with mixture of pity and curiosity. They were physically weak compared to most spacefaring races, with no natural armor, no psychic abilities, and lifespans that barely registered as significant. "The human ship will dock in 6 hours, Dronix continued. "Whatever that dragon is planning, we'll know soon enough." Through the observation window, Zixthera's massive head turned slightly, as if she could hear their conversation through meters of reinforced hull. Her eyes, each one larger than Kethavar's entire body, glowed with an inner fire that had once burned entire worlds. The dragon's lips pulled back slightly, revealing teeth that could pierce battleship armor. "Double the security protocols," Kethavar ordered, "and evacuate all non-essential personnel from the docking levels. If she decides to honor her reputation, I want minimal casualties." As the ambassador hurried away, he missed seeing Zixthera's expression soften. The ancient dragon had not moved from her position in 3 days, but something in her predatory stance had changed. Where before there had been the coiled tension of a hunter, now there was something else entirely. The human colony ship Aspiration limped into the station's docking bay 6 hours later, its hull scarred by micrometeorite impacts and cosmic radiation. The ship was massive by human standards, but appeared fragile compared to the armored vessels of other species. Its passengers had been traveling for nearly a decade, searching for a new world to call home. Captain Sarah Chen stepped onto the station's deck with her usual cautious optimism. Behind her, families began to emerge from the ship, children staying close to their parents as they took their first steps on solid ground in months. The youngest among them was barely 5 years old, a girl named Luna whose bright eyes took in everything with wonder rather than fear. "Welcome to Threshold Station," announced the automated greeting system. "Please proceed to Processing Center 7 for standard immigration procedures." What the system failed to mention was that every security camera on the station was now focused on the human group, and in the depths of the central bay, an ancient dragon had begun to move for the first time in 3 days. Zixthera's massive form uncoiled with fluid grace, her movement creating tremors that rippled through the station's superstructure. Alarms began to sound throughout the facility as her psychic presence intensified, pressing against the minds of every creature aboard. Most species felt it as a crushing weight of ancient authority, the mental signature of a being that had ruled the stars when their ancestors were still crawling in primordial seas. The dragon's head rose toward the ceiling, and for the first time in 3 days she spoke. Her voice resonated through both air and thought, reaching every corner of the station. "Bring me the children." The word sent panic through the command center. Security teams mobilized, but they all knew the truth. If Zixthera wanted something on this station, There was very little they could do to stop her. The dragon had once fought entire battle fleets single-handed. Station security would last approximately 30 seconds against her fury. Ambassador Kethavar raced toward the docking bay, his mind spinning through diplomatic protocols. None of them covered negotiating with legendary predators, who specifically requested access to the most vulnerable members of a refugee population. But as he ran through the corridors, Kethavar couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something important. In all the historical records of Zixthera's attacks, she had never specifically targeted children. Her fury had always been directed at military targets, at those who posed threats to her territory or her kind. "Bring me the children," the dragon's voice echoed again, but this time Kethavar caught something in her tone that made him pause. It wasn't the voice of a predator making demands. It was the voice of someone making a request. Captain Sarah Chen's hand moved instinctively to her sidearm as the station's emergency lights bathed the docking bay in red. The automated voice had been replaced by something far more unsettling, a presence that seemed to press against her mind like a physical weight. Around her, the other human families huddled together, parents pulling their children close. "What's happening?" asked Dr. Marcus Webb, the colony ship's chief medical officer. His daughter Emma pressed against his leg, her 8-year-old eyes wide with confusion. Before Sarah could answer, Ambassador Kethavar burst into the docking bay, his 4 eyes darting between the humans and the security monitors. His skin had shifted to a deep purple that Sarah recognized as extreme distress in his species. "Captain Chen," he said, his translation device struggling with the rapid pace of his words. "We have a situation. There's a creature aboard this station, a being of immense power. She's requesting to see your children." Requesting? Sarah's military training kicked in immediately. What kind of creature makes requests that cause this level of panic? Kethavar hesitated, then activated a holographic display that showed the central bay. Sarah felt her breath catch as the image resolved into the massive form of Zixthera. The dragon's scales seemed to absorb light, making her appear like a living shadow against the station's bright interior. Her head, easily the size of a shuttlecraft, turned toward one of the cameras as if she knew she was being observed. "That," Kethavar said quietly, "is Zixthera the Worldbreaker. She's older than recorded history, and has single-handedly destroyed more military fleets than most wars. 3 days ago, she arrived here and has been waiting. Waiting, we now believe, for your arrival." Little Luna Martinez, who had been hiding behind her mother's legs, stepped forward to get a better look at the hologram. Her 5-year-old voice cut through the tension with startling clarity. "She looks sad," Luna said, tilting her head as she studied the dragon's image. The adults exchanged glances. What Luna saw as sadness, they saw as the coiled tension of a predator. But children often saw things differently than adults, especially children who had spent their entire short lives traveling through the unknown darkness of space. "We need to evacuate immediately," Dr. Webb said, lifting Emma into his arms. "If this creature is as dangerous as you say, no." The voice came from Captain Chen, but her tone was thoughtful rather than defiant. "Ambassador, you said she requested to see the children." "Not demanded. Requested. The distinction may not matter if we refuse her," Kethavar replied, "but it might matter if we don't." Sarah knelt down to Luna's level. "Sweetheart, what do you see when you look at the dragon?" Luna studied the hologram again, her small hand pressed against the surface of the display. "She's really big and scary, but her eyes look like my grandma's eyes did when she was really sick. Like she's hurting inside but trying to be brave." Through the station's communication system, Zixthera's voice resonated again. This time the words were gentler, though the psychic pressure remained overwhelming for most of the non-human crew. "I mean no harm to the young ones. I have not tasted flesh in 7 centuries, nor destroyed a world in 5. I ask only to see them, to understand what I have heard whispered in the void between stars." Sarah looked around at the other parents. Fear was written clearly on their faces, but something else was there too. These were people who had left everything behind for the chance at a new life, who had raised their children in the cramped corridors of a colony ship while traveling through the unknown. They had already risked everything for their families. "What has she heard whispered?" Sarah asked. Kethavar's skin shifted to a lighter purple, indicating confusion. "We don't know. The dragons were always secretive about their sources of information. Some say they can hear the thoughts of dying stars. or commune with the cosmic background radiation itself. Young Marcus Chen, Sarah's 12-year-old son, had been quietly listening to the conversation. Now he stepped forward, his chin set with the same determination his mother often showed. "Maybe she heard about us," he said. "About humans. Maybe she wants to see if the stories are true." "What stories?" Kethavar asked. Marcus shrugged. "The stories about how we take care of things. Mom always said that's what makes humans special in space. Most creatures are either predators or prey, but humans try to take care of everything. We even try to save our enemies sometimes. The wisdom of children often cuts straight to the heart of complex situations." Sarah felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. Zixithera was ancient, powerful, and according to all accounts, utterly alone. The last of her kind, drifting through a galaxy that feared her very presence. "She's lonely," Luna said suddenly, as if reading Sarah's thoughts. "The big dragon is lonely and wants to see if we're nice." Through the communication system, a sound emerged that none of them had expected. It was barely perceptible, but it sounded almost like a sigh from a creature whose lungs could hold enough air to fill a cathedral. "Captain," Kethavar said urgently, "whatever you're considering, please remember that this being has the power to tear this station apart. If something goes wrong, then we'll deal with it." Sarah stood up, her decision made. "But my daughter just pointed out something that all of our advanced civilizations missed. Sometimes the most dangerous things in the universe aren't looking for victims. Sometimes they're just looking for understanding." She activated her personal communicator, broadcasting on the station's general frequency. "Zixithera," she said, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was doing. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the colony ship Aspiration. Our children would like to meet you too. But we're going to do this properly, with respect for everyone involved." The dragon's response came immediately, and for the first time, there was something unmistakably hopeful in her ancient voice. "You would trust me with your most precious treasures?" "We would trust you to be who you choose to be in this moment," Sarah replied. "Not who you were in the past." The silence that followed stretched for nearly a full minute. Then through the station's superstructure, they felt the vibration of something massive moving with careful, deliberate gentleness. "Very well, Captain of the Humans. Let us meet properly." The central bay of Threshold Station had been hastily reconfigured into something resembling a meeting hall. The usual cargo containers had been moved aside, creating an open space large enough for both humans and dragon to coexist. Emergency force fields hummed at the ready, though everyone present knew they would offer little protection if Zixithera decided to become hostile. Ambassador Kethavar stood beside Captain Chen, his skin cycling through various shades of nervous purple. Behind them, a group of human families waited with their children, an unprecedented gathering in galactic history. No civilization had ever voluntarily brought their young into the presence of a world-breaker-class dragon. "Are you certain about this protocol?" Kethavar whispered to Sarah. "Bringing children to meet the Galaxy's most feared predator violates approximately 47 different safety regulations." Sarah watched as Luna Martinez squirmed excitedly in her mother's arms, completely unaware that she was about to meet a creature that had once reduced entire battle fleets to cosmic debris. "Sometimes regulations don't account for the most important variables," she replied. The massive doors to the central bay began to iris open, with a grinding sound that seemed to vibrate through the bones of every person present. The opening revealed a darkness that seemed deeper than space itself, and from within that darkness came the whisper of scales against metal. Zixithera emerged slowly, her massive form moving with a grace that defied her size. Her obsidian scales caught the bay's lighting, creating patterns of reflected light that danced across the walls like living shadows. Her head alone was larger than most shuttlecraft, and her eyes glowed with an inner fire that had witnessed the birth and death of countless stars. But something was different about her posture. Gone was the coiled aggression of a hunting predator. Instead, she moved with the careful deliberation of someone approaching something infinitely precious and fragile. The dragon's massive head lowered until it was level with the human group, still maintaining a respectful distance. Her eyes, each one larger than a human torso, focused on the children with an intensity that would have been terrifying if not for the obvious gentleness behind it. "Hello, small ones," Zixithera said, her voice carefully modulated to avoid the psychic pressure that usually accompanied her words. "I am Zixithera. I have traveled very far to meet you. Most of the children pressed closer to their parents, natural caution warring with curiosity. But Luna Martinez, with the fearlessness that only 5-year-olds possessed, wriggled free from her mother's arms and took a step forward. "Hi," she said simply. "Are you really a dragon? You're really big." A sound emerged from Zixthera's throat that might have been laughter, though it resonated more like distant thunder. "Yes, little one, I am indeed a dragon, and you are indeed very small. But sometimes small things are the most important of all." Young Marcus Chen, emboldened by Luna's courage, joined her. "My mom says you're older than most civilizations. What was it like when the galaxy was young?" "Lonely," Zixthera replied without hesitation. "Very, very lonely. My kind ruled through fear, and fear makes poor company. We were mighty, but we were never loved." Dr. Webb's daughter Emma, still holding tightly to her father's hand, asked, "Is that why you wanted to meet us? Because you were lonely?" The ancient dragon was quiet for a long moment, her massive head tilting as she considered the question. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of millennia. "I have heard whispers in the void, small ones, stories carried on cosmic winds and solar flares, stories of a species that does not rule through strength, but through something else entirely, something I had forgotten was possible." "What did you forget?" Luna asked, her natural curiosity overcoming any sense of fear. "Kindness," Zixthera said simply. "I forgot that strength could be used to protect rather than to dominate. I forgot that the most powerful beings in the universe might choose to be gentle with those who cannot defend themselves." Ambassador Kethavar watched in amazement as the conversation continued. He had witnessed diplomatic negotiations between species that lasted for months, complex protocols designed to prevent misunderstandings that could lead to war. But here, human children were conducting the most successful first contact in galactic history through simple, honest questions. "We heard stories too," Marcus said, "about dragons who destroyed whole worlds. Were those stories about you?" "Some of them," Zixthera admitted, her massive head lowering even further until her nose was nearly touching the station's deck. "I am not proud of what I was. I was angry and afraid, and I expressed both emotions through violence. I told myself it was strength, but it was actually weakness." "What changed?" asked Emma, her 8-year-old mind grappling with concepts that had puzzled philosophers for centuries. "Time," the dragon replied. "And stories. Stories of a species that faced extinction and chose to save their enemies. Stories of humans who gave their lives to protect creatures they had never met. Stories of parents who taught their children to see beauty in the darkness of space." Luna stepped closer, and Sarah felt her heart skip a beat, but Zixthera remained perfectly still as the little girl approached her massive snout. "You don't look scary anymore," Luna announced. "You look sad. Do you want to be friends?" The ancient dragon's eyes closed for a moment, and when they opened again, they glistened with what looked suspiciously like tears. "More than anything in all the cosmos," Zixthera whispered. "But I do not know how to be friends, little one. I have only known how to be feared." Luna considered this with the serious contemplation that children brought to important problems. Then she reached out and placed her tiny hand against one of Zixthera's massive scales. "It's easy," she said. "You just have to be nice and share your toys and say please and thank you and help when someone needs help. And you have to promise not to hurt anybody," Marcus added, his 12-year-old sense of justice asserting itself. "And you have to keep promises," Emma chimed in. Zixthera looked at the 3 children, then at their parents, then at the assembled crowd of beings who were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. "I promise," she said solemnly, "to be nice and to share what I have and to say please and thank you, and to help when someone needs help, and never to hurt anyone again, and to always keep my promises." It was the simplest oath of friendship ever spoken, and the most powerful treaty ever negotiated. "Good," Luna said with satisfaction. "Now we're friends." And with that, she stood on her tiptoes and kissed the nose of the galaxy's most feared predator. The moment Luna's lips touched Zixthera's obsidian snout, something extraordinary happened throughout the galaxy. Every sensitive species felt it, a shift in the cosmic balance, as if a fundamental force that had been out of alignment for millions of years had suddenly clicked into place. On Threshold Station, the effect was immediate and profound. Zixthara's massive form began to glow with a soft, warm light that seemed to emanate from within her scales. The ancient psychic pressure that had weighed on every mind aboard the station transformed from crushing authority into something protective and nurturing. Remarkable, breathed Ambassador Kethvar, his skin shifting to a brilliant gold that indicated wonder and joy in his species. In all the historical records, nothing like this has ever been documented. The dragon's eyes remained fixed on Luna, who had stepped back with a satisfied smile, completely unaware that she had just accomplished something that had eluded galactic diplomats for millennia. "How did you do that, little one?" Zixthara asked, her voice filled with amazement. "How did you remove the darkness I have carried for so long?" Luna shrugged with 5-year-old nonchalance. "Mama says kisses make everything better. Even bad dreams and scary thoughts, and when you're really, really sad." Dr. Webb, who had been monitoring the situation with professional interest, stepped forward with his medical scanner. "Captain, I'm reading massive changes in the local psychic field. Whatever just happened, it's not just emotional. It's affecting the fundamental energy patterns around us." "The child has awakened something," Zixthara said, her massive head turning to address the adults. "Something I thought was lost forever. Dragons were not always creatures of destruction, Captain Chen. Once, long ago, we were guardians, protectors of the young and innocent throughout the cosmos." Marcus stepped forward, his curiosity overcoming his awe. "What happened? Why did dragons become different?" The ancient being was quiet for a long moment, her massive form settling into a more comfortable position on the station's deck. "Fear," she said finally. "Fear of being forgotten, of becoming irrelevant as younger species grew in power and wisdom. We chose dominance over service, thinking it would preserve our legacy. Instead, it corrupted our very essence." "But you're not corrupted anymore," Emma observed with the directness that only children possessed. "You feel different now, warmer?" "Yes," Zixthara agreed, wonder evident in her voice. "The touch of innocence has reminded me what I was meant to be. But more than that, it has shown me what I could become." Captain Chen had been observing the interaction with growing understanding. "You didn't come here to threaten us," she realized. "You came here because you heard about humanity's children, about how we raise them. Your species does something no other civilization has managed," Zixthara confirmed. "You teach your young to see potential for good in everything, even in creatures that have forgotten their own goodness. Your children do not fear what they do not understand. They seek to understand what they do not fear. That's not always a good survival trait." Dr. Webb pointed out with parental concern. "Perhaps not," the dragon acknowledged, "but it is the trait that will save the galaxy." Ambassador Kethvar's translator was working overtime as his excited chatter filled the air. "I must contact the Galactic Council immediately. This changes everything we thought we knew about human potential, dragon psychology, and cross-species interaction protocols." "Wait," Sarah said, holding up a hand. "Before we involve politicians and bureaucrats, shouldn't we ask the children what they think should happen next?" It was an unusual approach to galactic diplomacy, but then again, nothing about this situation was usual. Luna, who had been studying Zixthara with the intense focus children reserved for truly important matters, raised her hand like she was in school. "I have a question," she announced solemnly. "Ask." "Little teacher," Zixthara said, lowering her massive head to Luna's level. "Do you have family? Other dragons to keep you company?" The pain that crossed the ancient being's features was visible even through her alien expressions.
"No, small one."
"I am the last. My kind chose pride over adaptation, and now I am alone among the stars." "That's really sad," Emma said with genuine sympathy. "Being alone is the worst feeling." "But you don't have to be alone anymore," Marcus added practically. "You could stay with us. Our colony ship has lots of room, and we're good at taking care of people." The adults exchanged glances. The logistical challenges of traveling with a 200-meter dragon were staggering. But before anyone could raise practical objections, Luna clapped her hands together as if the matter was settled. "Yes, you can be our guardian dragon. You can protect our ship and teach us about the galaxy, and we can show you how to play games and share stories and have fun." Zixthara's massive form trembled slightly, and it took several moments before the assembled beings realized the ancient dragon was crying, tears of joy streaming from eyes that had seen the birth and death of stars. "You would accept me, despite what I have been? You're not what you were. Luna said with the absolute certainty that children brought to matters of the heart. You're what you are now, and now you're our friend. Besides, Marcus added with a grin, having a dragon friend would be the coolest thing ever. Captain Chen felt a familiar stirring in her chest, the same feeling she'd had when she first volunteered for the colony mission. It was the sensation of standing at the edge of something unprecedented and wonderful, and absolutely terrifying. Zixathera, she said formally, would you like to join our colony? Not as a weapon or a tool, but as a member of our community? We could use a guardian, and it sounds like you could use a family. The dragon was silent for so long that some of the adults began to worry she had changed her mind. But when she finally spoke, her voice carried a warmth that transformed the cold metal of the station into something that felt like home. Captain Chen, children of Earth, I would be honored to serve as guardian to your colony. I offer my strength to protect, my knowledge to teach, and my loyalty to preserve all that you hold dear. And we offer friendship, Luna said, reaching out to pat the dragon's snout again. Forever and ever. Forever and ever, Zixathera agreed, and the promise resonated through the station's hull like a song of hope sung by the stars themselves. 3 months after leaving Threshold Station, the human colony ship Aspiration drifted through the void between star systems, but it no longer traveled alone. Alongside the vessel, her massive form moving with grace that defied physics, flew Zixathera. The dragon had modified her own biology in ways that astounded galactic scientists, creating specialized organs that allowed her to survive in the vacuum of space while maintaining the ability to breathe normally when needed. Inside the ship's observation lounge, a group of children pressed their faces against the transparent aluminum windows, watching their guardian dragon perform what Luna had dubbed space ballet. Zixathera moved through complex spirals and loops around the colony ship, her scales reflecting starlight in patterns that seemed almost musical. She's showing off again, Marcus, Chen observed with the fond exasperation of a 12-year-old who had grown accustomed to having the galaxy's most powerful being wrapped around his finger. I think she's practicing, Emma Webb corrected, studying the dragon's movements with the analytical mind she'd inherited from her father. Look at how she keeps checking the asteroid field ahead of us. She's learning to be a scout. Captain Chen entered the lounge carrying a steaming cup of coffee and a datapad filled with reports that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. The ship's logs now included entries like Dragon Patrol Report, Sector Clear of Hostile Vessels, an educational session, basic stellar cartography taught by ship's guardian. How's our protector doing today? Sarah asked, settling into a chair beside the children. She found 3 more ships hiding in the asteroid belt, Luna reported excitedly. But they were just scared families like us, so she told them they could join our group if they wanted to. Sarah nodded, making a note on her pad. This had become a regular occurrence. Word was spreading through refugee networks across the galaxy about the human colony that traveled with a reformed dragon guardian. Displaced families from a dozen different species had asked to join their convoy, seeking the protection that Zixathera offered. Captain, came Zixathera's voice through the ship's communication system. I have completed my survey of the Kepler 442 system. The second planet shows all the signs your specifications required. Breathable atmosphere, abundant water, and no signs of sentient life that we would be displacing. Excellent work, Sarah replied. How long until we reach orbit? At current velocity, approximately 18 standard hours. However, I should warn you that there are 3 hegemony patrol ships stationed in the outer system. They appear to be conducting standard territory sweeps. The mention of the hegemony caused the adults in the lounge to tense. The Galactic Military Alliance had been increasingly aggressive toward refugee populations, viewing the mass migration caused by stellar instabilities as a threat to established order. Are they likely to challenge our approach? Sarah asked, unknown. However, I should mention that I have been monitoring their communications. They are aware of my presence and seem to be experiencing significant debate about how to proceed. Marcus perked up with interest. Are they scared of Zixathera? Not scared exactly. The dragon's voice carried what might have been amusement. More like profoundly confused. Their tactical databases classify me as a Class A galactic threat, but their sensors indicate I am traveling peacefully alongside civilian vessels. They appear to be having difficulty reconciling these facts. Luna giggled. They don't understand that you're good now. Indeed, little teacher. It seems my reputation for destruction is more widely known than my recent conversion to gardening. This was another development that had surprised everyone. Zixithera had begun cultivating specialized crop modules along her external scales, creating mobile agricultural systems that could support extended space travel. She had referred to it as learning to nurture life rather than ending it, but the children simply called it dragon farming. Perhaps I should contact them directly, Sarah suggested. Diplomatic channels might prevent any misunderstandings. With respect, Captain, I believe a different approach might be more effective. May I suggest that our young ambassadors handle the initial contact? The adults exchanged glances. Over the past months, it had become clear that the children had a remarkable ability to diffuse tense situations simply by being themselves. Their natural curiosity and lack of preconceived notions often cut through diplomatic complexities that stymied trained negotiators. What did you have in mind? Sarah asked. Allow me to approach their lead vessel with the children visible in my forward observation chamber. When they see human young ones traveling safely with me, it will demonstrate my changed nature more effectively than any diplomatic protocol. Emma raised her hand. Can we talk to them? I've never met a hegemony officer before. If they're willing to listen, Zixithera replied. However, you should be prepared for them to be somewhat skeptical. Most galactic military personnel are trained to view dragons as existential threats. Then we'll just have to show them they're wrong, Luna declared with 5-year-old certainty. 2 hours later, the forward section of Zixithera's massive head had been configured as a mobile meeting chamber, with transparent walls that allowed both the children and any external observers to see each other clearly. Marcus, Emma, and Luna floated in the specialized environment suits that Zixithera had grown from her own biological material, each one perfectly fitted and decorated with scale patterns that sparkled like gemstones. This is so cool, Marcus breathed as they approached the lead hegemony vessel. We're flying inside a dragon's head. Remember, Emma said with the seriousness of an 8-year-old diplomat. We need to be polite and answer their questions honestly. Daddy says first impressions are really important. And we need to tell them about how nice Zix is now, Luna added, so they don't try to hurt her. Through the chamber's communication system, they could hear the increasingly frantic chatter from the hegemony ship's bridge. Confirmed, Command. The World Breaker is approaching our position with what appears to be human juveniles, visible inside a biological chamber. Requesting immediate tactical guidance. Maintain defensive posture but do not fire unless directly threatened. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Zixithera's voice reached both the children and the military vessel simultaneously. Hegemony ship Relentless, this is Guardian Zixithera of the Human Colony Convoy. I request permission to facilitate diplomatic contact between your crew and our young ambassadors. The silence that followed stretched for nearly a full minute before a hesitant voice responded. Guardian Zixithera, that's not a designation in our database. It is a new designation, the dragon replied calmly. I have recently discovered that my talents are better suited to protection than destruction. These young ones have taught me that strength can be expressed through service rather than dominance. Luna activated her own communicator with the fearless confidence that had become her trademark. Hi, I'm Luna, and these are my friends Marcus and Emma. We're traveling with Zix to find a new home planet. She's really nice now and grows vegetables on her scales. Do you want to be friends too? The communication channel crackled with the sound of what might have been someone choking on their beverage. And in that moment, the first formal diplomatic contact between the human colony and the galactic hegemony began with a 5-year-old's invitation to friendship. Admiral Vorthka of the hegemony fleet had commanded vessels through 7 major conflicts and faced down 3 different galactic threats during his career. But nothing in his military training had prepared him for a diplomatic negotiation conducted by human children, flying inside the head of a reformed, world-breaker-class dragon. Let me understand this correctly, he said, his 4 eyes studying the tactical display that showed Zixithera's massive form, drifting peacefully alongside his cruiser. You're telling me that the most feared predator in galactic history has been domesticated by a group of human juveniles? His first officer, Commander Terex, checked her readings for the 10th time. Sir, all tactical scans confirm it. The creature's psychic signature has completely transformed. Where we would expect to read aggression and predatory instincts, we're detecting what can only be described as protective nurturing behaviors. Through the communication channel, Luna's cheerful voice interrupted their professional analysis. We're not in trouble, are we? Zik says sometimes grown-ups don't understand when things change. Admiral Vorthka found himself in the unprecedented position of being addressed directly by a human child while said child was literally sitting inside the mouth of a creature that could vaporize his entire fleet. Military protocol had no procedures for this situation. No, young one, you're not in trouble, he replied carefully. We're simply trying to understand your unusual traveling arrangement. Oh, that's easy, Marcus chimed in. Zix was lonely and sad, and Luna kissed her nose, and now she's part of our family. She protects us and teaches us about space, and we teach her about being happy and having friends. Emma added her own explanation with 8-year-old precision. It's called reformed behavioral modification through positive social reinforcement. My daddy explained it to me. When someone feels loved and wanted, they don't want to hurt people anymore. The Admiral's tactical officer leaned over to whisper urgently in his ear, Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout this system. If this is some kind of trap, it's not a trap, Commander, Admiral Vorthka said quietly, his decades of experience recognizing truth when he heard it. Look at the psychic readings again. Look at how the dragon moves around their ship. This is genuine protection behavior, not predatory positioning. Zixthera's ancient voice joined the conversation. Admiral, I understand your caution. For millions of years, my kind have been agents of destruction, but these children have shown me something I had forgotten. The joy that comes from creating rather than destroying, from nurturing rather than dominating. Prove it, the Admiral said bluntly. If you've truly changed, prove it. What happened next would be recorded in military academies throughout the galaxy for centuries to come. Zixithera began to glow, but instead of the angry red fire associated with dragon rage, her scales emanated a warm golden light. From specialized organs along her hide, she released clouds of microscopic seeds, the same crop systems she had been developing during the journey. I seed dead worlds with life, she said simply. I turn barren rock into gardens. I have spent the last 3 months learning to give birth to ecosystems rather than ending them. The seeds drifted through space toward the barren 4th planet in the system, each one designed to survive in vacuum until it found suitable soil. Within hours, that lifeless world would begin its transformation into something capable of supporting vegetation. Furthermore, Zixthera continued, I offer you something that no military force in the galaxy has ever possessed. I offer you the knowledge of how to turn enemies into allies, how to transform the worst impulses of any species into their best. Luna pressed her face against the transparent chamber wall, her breath fogging the surface. The secret is you just have to be really, really nice to them, she confided to the Admiral. Even when they're scary at first. Admiral Vorthka felt something shift in his understanding of the universe. He had spent his entire career preparing for wars, training to fight threats, building fleets to destroy enemies. But here was a child teaching him that the greatest victories might come from making enemies into friends. Captain Chen, he said, opening a channel to the colony ship. I need to speak with you directly. Sarah's voice came through clearly. Admiral, I hope you understand that these children are under my protection, and by extension under Zixithera's protection. Any threat to them will be met with appropriate response. No threats, Captain. I want to make you an offer. The hegemony has been fighting a losing battle against refugee crises throughout this sector. Displaced populations, resource conflicts, territorial disputes. Our military solutions aren't working. What are you proposing? A partnership. You've demonstrated something that military academies said was impossible. You've reformed a Class A galactic threat through purely peaceful means. We need that skill set. Marcus perked up with interest. Are you asking us to teach others scary things to be nice? In essence, yes, the Admiral replied. There are other creatures, other threats that we've been fighting for years. Pirates, rogue AI systems, displaced war machines from ancient conflicts. What if instead of destroying them, we could redeem them? Emma clapped her hands together. Like a really big friendship project. Exactly like that, Admiral Vorthka found himself saying, amazed at how a child's perspective could reframe galactic policy. Would your colony be willing to work with us? To teach us how to turn enemies into allies? Captain Chen was quiet for a long moment before responding. Admiral, we're refugees looking for a home. We don't want to become involved in military operations. Not military operations. Zixthara interjected. Peace operations. Teaching the galaxy what these children have taught me, that the strongest beings are those who choose to protect rather than destroy. Luna bounced excitedly in her environmental suit. Can we do it, Captain Sarah? Can we help make the whole galaxy friends? Through the communication channel, they could hear Sarah's soft laughter. Admiral Vorthka, it seems our youngest diplomat has made the decision for us. The human colony accepts your proposal, but we do this as equals, not as subordinates. And we do it with the understanding that every being we encounter deserves the chance to choose what they want to become. Agreed, the Admiral said, feeling as though he was participating in the most important treaty negotiation in galactic history. Welcome to the Hegemony Peace Corps. Captain Chen, I have a feeling you're about to change everything we thought we knew about conflict resolution. Zixthara's rumbling laughter filled the void between the ships. Admiral, you have no idea how right you are. These small humans are about to teach the galaxy that love is the most powerful force in the universe. And that kisses really do make everything better, Luna added solemnly. In the depths of space, surrounded by warships and ancient dragons, a 5-year-old girl had just redefined galactic diplomacy forever. 5 years had passed since the establishment of the first human colony world, now known throughout the galaxy as Haven Prime. What had begun as a desperate search for a new home had evolved into something unprecedented, a world where former enemies lived together in harmony, their conflicts resolved through the revolutionary principles the children had taught them. Luna, now 10 years old but still possessing the fearless heart that had kissed a dragon's nose, stood in the central plaza of New Hope City, surrounded by the most diverse gathering of beings the galaxy had ever seen. Former pirates worked alongside reformed war machines, their aggressive programming replaced with protective protocols. Displaced creatures from a dozen different worlds had found new purpose as guardians and teachers. Remember, Luna addressed the latest group of arrivals, a pack of crystalline predators whose homeworld had been consumed by its dying sun. Being scary on the outside doesn't mean you have to be mean on the inside. Zix taught us that. The massive dragon lay coiled around the city's central spire, her scales now permanently shifted to the warm, golden hue that had become her natural state. Children from dozens of different species played along her length, sliding down her tail like it was the galaxy's most extraordinary playground. Her head rested near the plaza, allowing her to participate in conversations while serving as an impromptu climbing structure for the youngest colonists. These small ones still astound me, Zixthara rumbled contentedly as a group of young hegemony officers' children used her snout as a slide. They see potential where others see only problems. Admiral Vorthka, now commander of the Galactic Peace Corps, watched the scene with satisfaction. His military uniform had been replaced with the simple robes of a diplomatic corps officer, though he still carried himself with the bearing of someone accustomed to command. The latest reports are extraordinary, he told Captain Chen, who had accepted the role of colonial administrator with the same competence she had once brought to commanding a starship. 17 different systems have requested Peace Corps intervention this month. Word is spreading that there are alternatives to military solutions. And how many requests do we actually have the resources to handle? Sarah asked practically. With our current staff? Perhaps 3, the Admiral admitted. But that's why I'm here. The Galactic Council has approved the establishment of 10 additional Peace Corps training centers. Each one will be staffed by human families working alongside reformed guardians. Marcus Chen, now 17 and showing the same leadership qualities his mother possessed, looked up from the data pad where he'd been tracking resource allocations. We're going to need more dragons, he said matter-of-factly. Actually, Zixthara said with what sounded suspiciously like smugness, I may have a solution to that problem. Everyone turned to look at the ancient dragon, who was regarding them with the expression of someone about to share wonderful news. It seems that reports of my transformation have reached the deep void between galaxies, she continued. 3 days ago, I received communication from others of my kind. They have been watching our progress with great interest. Luna's eyes went wide with excitement. There are more dragons? Are they coming here? 7 of my kin have already begun the journey from the dark spaces where they have hidden for millennia. They wish to learn what you children have taught me. They want to remember what it feels like to be guardians rather than destroyers. Dr. Webb, now the colony's head of xenobiology, nearly dropped his medical scanner. 7 more Worldbreaker-class dragons? The logistical challenges alone will be manageable, Emma Webb interrupted, her 13-year-old voice carrying the calm certainty she'd inherited from her father. We've learned how to help people change. It doesn't matter how big or scary they used to be. Besides, Luna added with a grin, I've gotten really good at dragon kisses. 7 more won't be a problem. Through the city's communication system, an announcement echoed across the plaza. Attention all residents. Long-range sensors have detected incoming vessels from the Rigel system. The delegation includes representatives from the former Corsair Alliance requesting reformation assistance. Sarah sighed good-naturedly. Former space pirates wanting to become productive members of society. 6 months ago, I would have called that impossible. Nothing's impossible anymore, Marcus said, watching as Luna immediately began organizing a welcoming committee of children from various species. The universe is a lot friendlier than anyone thought. It just needed someone brave enough to make the first move. Zixthara's massive head turned to watch Luna marshaling her young troops with the efficiency of a seasoned diplomat. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if that first day had gone differently? If fear had won instead of courage? But it didn't, Luna called over her shoulder as she headed toward the landing pads. Because that's not how the best stories end. The best stories end with everyone becoming friends and helping each other and making the whole galaxy a better place to live. As the group dispersed to prepare for the latest arrivals, Admiral Vorthka found himself standing beside Zixthara's massive head. Do you think she understands the magnitude of what she's accomplished? He asked quietly. The ancient dragon considered the question while watching Luna convince a group of nervous young Rigelians to help her set up welcome banners. I think she understands the only thing that truly matters, Zixthara replied. That every being in the universe wants the same thing, to be valued, to belong somewhere, and to know that their existence makes the cosmos a little brighter. In the distance, Luna's laughter echoed across the plaza as she successfully taught a crystalline predator how to help hang decorations. The sound was picked up by the city's communication arrays and broadcast automatically to the orbital stations, where it was recorded and transmitted throughout the galaxy as part of the standard peace frequency, a reminder to everyone listening that hope was possible. Years later, galactic historians would mark this day as the beginning of what they called the Great Convergence, when the last holdout systems joined the growing alliance of reformed worlds. But for the residents of Haven Prime, it was just another Tuesday in paradise, where former enemies worked together, and ancient dragons taught children how to tend gardens that could grow in the vacuum of space. And at the center of it all, a girl who had once kissed a dragon's nose without fear continued to prove that the smallest acts of courage could transform the entire universe. The galaxy was no longer a dark and hostile place. It had become home.